Since the nomination of ambassador-designates, concerns have arisen over their acceptance by host countries due to time constraints on their tenure. High-ranking officials in the Presidency and the Foreign Service disclosed that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was grappling with the challenge of securing agreement, the formal consent of receiving states for the nominees. According to them, several countries may insist that ambassadors have a minimum tenured period of a year or two tied to the life of the sending country's administration. With the next presidential election scheduled for February 2027 and Tinubu's first tenure set to conclude in May that year, the officials expressed concerns that host countries may be reluctant to accept many of the envoys for now. Joining us on the show to discuss the possible reason for non-posting of ambassadors-designate to their respective countries and how this is affecting Nigeria's relations with foreign countries is Dr. Kunle Fagbemi, a political scientist. Good morning, Dr. Fagbemi. You're most welcome to the morning show.
Good morning, Hayo. Thank you very much for having me. And you got very good African braids on.
Thank you very much, sir.
Dr. Fagbemi. Yeah, to start on there. Anyway, quickly to the point. Now, isn't the problem that we're facing now foreseeable and avoidable with the posting of ambassador-designate? In the sense that any elementary student of diplomacy will know that it's not automatic, that you just send the name of an ambassador and then the person will be accepted. And in any case, an agreement can take months, sometimes even 1 year, and that the receiving host country may even say no. So where does this leave our designated ambassadors who may not even go for any posting till the end of this first term?
Thank you very much, Dr. Abati, for having me and asking this question the way you've just done. Interestingly, it's a confirmation of the challenges that we have been facing with the incumbent APC-led administration under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. They are operating a very dysfunctional presidency and diplomatic service. Like you rightly said, every elementary student of diplomatic practice or diplomacy of foreign affairs understands that the Vienna Convention is very explicit on what ought to be. Article 3 talks about the fact that you should have a mission. Article 4 talks about the agreement that we're all making reference to, which automatically means that if you have a mission in any country, you want to maintain the operations of that mission at the highest level possible for correct interface. So when in September 2023, President Tinubu decided to recall all these ambassadors back, if a number of the officials in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs were very conversant with the provisions of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations and some of the protocol instruments therefrom and thereto, they would have understood that you must make sure that within the maximum of 90 days, you need to have appointed another ambassador, as it were, and or appoint a special envoy that will cover the jurisdiction. Unfortunately, all of us are very aware of the facts in public domain. Nothing was done between September 2023 and until Q3 of 2025, when we now started having a list of first 4 names, and then you now had another additional list that was sent to the National Assembly. If that is the case, it means that we are having challenges of institutional memory and continuity of governance services delivery. Diplomatic practice and foreign affairs matters are deep statecraft issues. And when you are handling statecraft issues, you understand that the appointment of ambassadors, because you know that Article 4 of the Vienna Convention talks about the agreement, a number of the issues would have been done at back channels and behind the scene, that by the time you are even mentioning a particular name, that name is as good as already adopted, and by all the stakeholders, everybody is going to be working towards achieving that. So if you have a dysfunctional presidency like we have currently that issues statement without thinking, take for instance in the last 40 hours, the certain Bayo Ononuga issued a statement concerning Nigeria-UK relations and making reference to the fact that 37 years had passed before Nigeria is initiating another state visit. Meanwhile, in 2003, the Queen of England came to Nigeria, and we've had series of interfaces which were supposed to have been referenced by him to prove to the fact that we are maintaining a very robust relationship with the United Kingdom. So we have entered a one-chance boss, as it were, and it is unfortunate that these ambassadors-designate are going to be on the receiving end of a wrong stick, mindful of the fact that it is clearly understood that you cannot operate a situation where you do not have your embassy properly managed for over 18 months, like we have done, 24 months plus and going, and you now expect a country to jump at it when you did not send special envoys, when you did not maintain the highest kind of relationship that is clear that you are holding these other countries in high esteem and regards. For example, you know it, and it was in public domain that South Africa and Nigeria had a brick bath over payment of utility bills. It means that we really have a lot of rejiggling of the Foreign Affairs Ministry and the Presidency, the State Chief of Protocols, the Director of Protocols, who are supposed to be diplomats in their own rights, all to awake and arise to be doing their normal beats.
All right, so this is where we find ourselves. This is the situation we find ourselves as a nation now. However, you would agree that we still need to maintain diplomatic relationships. And at critical points like this, we're looking at key countries like the United States of America, we're looking at the United Kingdom, we're looking at the United Nations. What can we do in the interim? Or how can we continue to pursue cordiality between these nations, ourselves and these nations, whilst we're still sorting out these ambassadors, designate postings?
The right way to go is for the incumbent president commander-in-chief to appoint special envoys who are very familiar with each of those jurisdictions. Like you have now, they cluster them in terms of regions. North America, there must be one or two experts that are already familiar. And these are the people that will broker all this. The number two is for us to understand that it needs a shared vision with the political elite of the Nigerian state, because no country of the world wants to operate with uncertainty. It means that what some of us have always said before now, that the incumbent president needs to reach out to the opposition political parties and build consensus. On this matter going forward, there is going to be a need for the president to convene a meeting of inter-party and major political stakeholders to understand that on this subject matter of foreign relationships, management, diplomatic practice, we will need to maintain this. And then they will now agree that we are going to convince the international community that each of these ambassadors designate that do succeed in getting agreement will serve a minimum of 24 to 30 months. If that is coming as a positive signal from the Nigerian political elite that are likely to succeed should he not win at the 2027 elections, so that they will know that they have a continuity, they're going to have a stability. They don't want a situation where somebody will come in. For example, let us assume, without conceding, that the agreement for any of the three ambassadors designate that are available is issued and they were able to report at their duty post by March 1, it does not translate to the presentation of their letters of credence to the sovereign of those countries immediately. And if you are talking of March 2026 to May 2027, and another president comes in and he summarily recalls them back home. But if the political class in the Nigerian state have agreed that, okay, whichever case may be, we are going to retain this set of ambassadors, and that means that there is going to be a rethinking on those who have been designated as ambassador designates. The only ones that will find it a lot easier are the career diplomats. And this is where I was hoping that Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, and the entire cabinet would have been mindful of the fact that those of us who speak as public intellectuals and do contribute, we do not hate them. We are just being patriots. We are just excited about bringing solutions that they are not thinking about. If they've done all this and they can do some of these things, get special envoys per region for Europe, a special envoy that will break out all these things, and then convene the meeting of the political elite consensus that the ambassadors that are going to go on duty post this time around will serve for a definitive period, so that even if the incumbent president is not coming back, they are sure that they would have this opportunity of serving for this X number of time, because there is a shared vision.
The question I'd like to ask is, didn't the government know that there was going to be a case of agreement or no agreement when they decided to name these ambassadors at this point in time? I mean, is it that we don't have people that think amongst, them that much, or those that scenario plan? Because all of this is another level of embarrassment for the country.
Rufai, my brother, you are a very good brother, and you're always helping me out to think openly. Painfully, we have a system populated by actors who had no business coming to government. And if they must come into government, they need to understand that they are dealing with statecraft. Statecraft is completely different from any form of grandstanding. I've just told you the language used by a number of them in communicating lacks the decency and the panache of somebody who is nuanced in statecraft. Two, you have a situation where you have people that are struggling to validate the incumbent at all costs, and as such are not ready to read. And if they do read, what are they reading? I just told you about the Vienna Convention, which is 1961, but there are many instruments and protocols thereafter that already tells you that you cannot have an embassy in any country and you do not have an ambassador for more than 90 days. These are things that if they had the correct set of people around them, and if they do not have, and they do consult the correct, nuanced, and enlightened people around them, they would not be having these issues. You cannot have removed and recalled ambassadors September 2023, and you've done nothing, and you expect those host countries to be clapping for you and to be doing Makossa dance. No, they will react, and that is what is happening now. And mind you, when some of those names were mentioned, the Nigerian populace, citizens, complained about some of them, and unfortunately the Akpabio rubber stamp Senate allowed some of those names to go through. They are watching, and they are going to react at this level, and that is what they are doing.
Okay, Doctor. Now, Dr. Fagbemi, I mean, you are so optimistic that we can achieve the objective of an elite political consensus. I don't think such a thing exists, because the list that you've been referring to, most of those people, they are just persons who have been rewarded for, electoral activities, for helping the party in power to come to power. So if another government comes in, it will have its own different plans and another set of, looking for patronage. And then, of course, people who are career diplomats, some of them may have even entered into retirement phase, and they will no longer be in service. However, what will be your advice to the persons on the list at the moment? Some of them have had Thanksgiving parties. Should they just go home and not be too optimistic? Or will you, if the Tinubu government comes back, say, well, the same list should be sent out again for confirmation, or maybe another list should be provided, and early enough, to address the issue of delay.
They're already ambassador-designate, so that's enough for them. At least they collect something.
Well, let's hear from Dr. Fagbemi. Briefly, please.
Already the ambassadors-designate. That one cannot be taken away from them. But they are not going to be able to serve until an agreement is presented and consummated. And then even when they get the agreement and they leave the shores of the Nigerian state, they will have to wait until they present their letters of credence, meaning that even when they're in that country, they cannot function until their letters of credences are presented. They can only do administrative issues within the embassy, but not interfacing and constructively engaging their host countries. So that is why I said we will need this elite consensus. The ambassadors designate, particularly the non-career political actor ambassador designates, must become aware of the fact that becoming an ambassador is based on national interests. To go serve your fatherland as an ambassador, you no longer have personal interest. It must be the national interest. You must be well attuned to the fact that national interest is not even the interest of the incumbent president commander-in-chief. And if it is clear to you and they arrive at an elite consensus that the international community is aware of, because I can bet you already it is clear that these are the individuals that are not likely to scale through. If these ones are going to scale through, and the ones that won't have too much problem are going to be the ambassador designates that are career. And those ones too, like you've rightly pointed out, some of them are going to be due for retirement very soon. So a number of these issues, but the first thing that he needs to do as president is to appoint special envoys to accelerate our interface and constructive engagement with Europe, with North America, with Asia, and things like that. And those ones are usually very interesting to do. I want to thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fagbemi. Appoint special envoys as you've recommended this morning to the president.